People are generally strange and confusing, and can be downright creepy at times. Those are people I'm sure you'd rather not meet. It's time to get comfortable and let the darkness take control. Number 1. June. My partner Johnny comes upstairs and finds it's cute how I'm checking him out on OkCupid. I'm confused as I haven't logged in lately, like in months. How could I have been looking at his account on OkCupid? So I log in and check it out. There's a list of 7 or so people that have also been checked out from my account today alone. Johnny is included, and also someone I work with. Well, that's embarrassing. Nope, wasn't me. So it's time to change my password. The next day at work, I was sure to bring it up and laugh about the fact that my OkCupid account was hacked to the person who was last in my viewed list. I didn't want this person thinking that I actually looked at his account. We work too closely together, and I already get the impression that he may see me more than just his boss. It always pleased him that his luggage tags printed his middle name and first initials as Christ T. This is not the type of person who should see his own name written out like he's God's gift to earth. I'll refer to him as Chris. Chris just laughed off the OkCupid hacking comment I made. I found it strange. He had no questions or comments on the subject. Most people would at least ask if you've changed your password, but nothing from Chris. So I brushed off the situation, and a few days later, I was out of office for work. Johnny messages me saying that it happened again, that I checked him out on OkCupid. No, I didn't, but I changed my password again. Now it's July. It's a weekend. I'm having a lazy morning in bed with Johnny, and I get a Facebook notification. Your account has been logged in from a new location. The IP address points to Chris's hometown. My heart's racing. What the hell is going on? I take care of the Facebook password and screenshotted the notification. Later that night, I get a text from Chris. Happy 4th, boss. I assume he's drunk. I'm worried about being caught having his access to my Facebook revoked so quickly. No, it can't be him doing this. It's just a coincidence, right? Johnny is convinced it's Chris, but that means someone I work with on a very small team is targeting me. This will make work nearly impossible. I can't talk to anyone at work about this. I'll have no way to run my departments. The situation will get minimalized. Chris drank a lot. I'd seen it at work events or when we just traveled just the two of us. He often got out of hand, but everyone just brushed it off. He's young. It was funny. We've all had those nights. But as long as you can show up at work the next day, it's fine. I brought it up with him once. Hey Chris, you need to be more cautious about the way you drink at work events. And then he didn't speak to me for 3 days. I offended him. I told him he's not allowed to have fun at work events. He told me when he finally snapped, and I recoiled. He's 3 times my size, and we're in a secluded space at work. One time whilst travelling with just the two of us, I got very sick. I told him I wouldn't make it for our dinner, so Chris offered to pick something up from a nearby store. He knocked on my room door and handed me the water he got me. He tried to make small talk as I thanked him and indicated that I was going to lie down. It was apparent by his stance in my hotel room doorway that he wished to come in. He moved an inch closer and I said goodnight, shut my door, and locked every lock I could. It wasn't the only time that he made me feel uncomfortable. I hadn't noticed any other accounts being hacked for a while. I was cautioned around Chris. even disassociated when I could. I avoided work outings if he was going, and I would just back out of lunch plans that he decided to go to once he knew I was going. But we often had to work very closely. We were a team after all, and I couldn't do my job without him, and him without me. Come November, Johnny was online, checking out his FetLife account one evening. He saw I was also online via the old messenger they used to have, and Johnny asked me if I'm logged in. I'm not. Again, my heart's racing. It's different this time though. The violations are beginning to feel commonplace, normal, expected. But this hacking is extreme. No one outside my FetLife friends know about this account. Definitely no one I work with, and there are some faceless nude photos of me there. I reached out to FetLife. They gave me the IP address of the last login. It's the same as the Facebook hack. Shit. I can't avoid this anymore. I can't just pretend it's just coincidences. But I need proof it's Chris. All I have is an IP address and an intuition. I can't take that to HR. The police, maybe? Will they help? Or will it make matters worse if they need to contact my employer? I start looking into the logging history of any account that tracks it. My bank account. Why is there an iPhone logged into it daily? I don't have an iPhone. But Chris does. Shit. This is real. This is happening. So I call the bank when I'm at work. I ask them about the unknown logging, and Chris is at his desk, right next to mine. The conversation is easily overheard. I hang up with the bank, and they can't help. Chris doesn't say a thing. Under normal conditions, I feel that a co-worker would inquire. Wow, is everything okay? Did you change your password? Did money go missing? Nothing from him though. So out of character. He's always interested in my personal life, but at this moment he chooses to remain silent? The next weekend, I wake up to a phone call. The caller is calling from my phone number. My heart skips a beat, but I answer. No one responds. I just hear breathing. I'm losing my sanity. I've spent weeks, months researching IP addresses and how I might be able to use the information I have. I've lost sleep. I can't focus at work. Johnny is worried about me and my safety, and so am I. But what do I do? Johnny suggests we go to the police. I don't want to, but I'm at a dead end. The officer is kinder and more receptive to the situation than I expected. This serves as a reminder to me that this is a big deal. I shouldn't minimalize it in my own thoughts. She takes the report, every detail, and they will use the IP to subpoena the ISP. Weeks go by. The officer on my case claims there's no crimes. The ISP records were never obtained. December comes along. My work email keeps doing this strange thing. Messages I've read keep being marked as unread. Weird. Is it him or just multiple devices I used to check it on? I don't know. I can't tell. The server doesn't keep a login history, that I can see at least. Should I talk to IT? I know them well. They will help. But that will make the situation real and known at work. No, not yet. I can't bring myself to do it. I can't do this anymore though. My heart is constantly racing. The slightest noise sends me into a panic. I get a security camera from my front door. I worry a little bit less when I hear the door slam from the wind, or when the dog barks at someone they hear. I'm becoming comfortable living in fear, as much as it is impacting my health. At least I have the pepper spray that John got me, and I carry it whenever I'm outside. Chris and I have shared accounts that we use for work. Maybe I can get an IP address from that. If it matches that, there's some proof, right? What if I send him an IP tracker? I've learned you can place an invisible pixel in an email, and it will send you the IP address of where it was read. All I have of Chris is his work email and Gmail. I test both on myself first, of course, I can't take the risk of him figuring out what I'm doing to him. And damn it, our work emails block it, and Gmail reroutes it to their HQ. Another dead end. More hours, days and weeks pass. I've called private investigators, and they're impressed. I've tried the tactics they already have at their disposal. I feel confident that I'm doing all I can, but more lost that the professionals can't help. 3 months later in February, it's my last attempt. It's a week before I have a 7-day out-of-country trip with Chris. It's on a large group this time, but I'll still be working very close with him. Too close. I send Chris an email with a shortened link that will track an IP address from where it was clicked from. I've tested this and it seems to work, but I'm shaking. What if it tips him off? What if he knows I'm onto him and he attacks me at work? What do I send him to get him to click? I find a local event that this particular breed of neckbeard would be interested. Hey Chris, I saw this and thought you might be interested. 5 minutes later Chris replies, pure panic, no, excitement. Maybe a mix of both sets in. I don't care what he replies. I check the IP tracker. I got a hit. I'm shaking. I can barely type or hold my phone. It's the same IP address as the Facebook and FetLife hack I got. I have the proof I need. It's Chris who's been stalking me via my accounts. My intuition was right. As much as I didn't want it to, it confirmed that it was him. There's relief. A weight has been removed. But then it sets back. What do I do now? Go to HR? Back to the police? We've got this trip coming up. My team needs to be there when I do the job. I'll wait till I get back. It's not that bad. I'm used to living like this now. Johnny thinks I'm insane for considering it. He's right. I am. I've lost touch with reality. This situation has me unable to determine what levels of uncomfortable one can and should live with. All night, I debate the decision I've made. I won't wait. I'll do it now. I text my boss Jay the next day, asking him to meet me for lunch on Sunday. I need to speak with you away from the office. This is not a normal request. We're close at work, but this is bizarre to him. He tells me I'm scaring him, and I wish that I can tell him not to worry. The following day, we meet for lunch. I'm so nervous I could vomit. This is it. This makes it all real now. And I tell him everything. I'm worried that he may minimize the issue. Chris is just a kid, he didn't mean anything. I'll talk to him tomorrow. These are my worries. And after I finish speaking, Jay is at a loss for words. We have a plan in place to take this to HR tomorrow. And he is already helping me find someone to replace Chris on our work trip. Again, I'm relieved and nervous at the same time. Shit is going down tomorrow. 7 months of living in fear, and finally, I can see an end. Then comes Monday. My pepper spray is in my pocket. I picked a work outfit that would conceal it today. Jay calls me, asks me for a question. I don't remember what, but I take it as an invitation to go into his office. Anything to get away from the person I know, without a doubt, has been hacking and stalking me. Jay wasn't expecting me, but understood. The department head is in his office. Jay is about to inform him of my situation. Having my story told by a third party was surreal. I filled in the details where needed and gave them a folder of evidence, which I had collected to take to HR. Screenshots, IP addresses, written accounts of the timelines up to this point, the emails from Chris confirming his involvement, and the IP from the IP tracker. The day is a haze. I was at HR's office at least twice, saw the police drive through the campus, and had to fight my way with the HR director. He didn't feel that I had enough evidence to prove the email I sent to Chris's Gmail was actually the Chris that worked here. I dug through my work email. Bam. He emailed my work email from his Gmail account once. Enough evidence for our non-believers. Hours go by. It's almost 3 PM, and I don't know what's going on. If I keep leaving my desk, Chris will know something's up. I can't call HR and ask, he'll hear the conversation. Chris walks over to me. "Oh shit," he says. He's shoving his work phone in my face too close for comfort. He got an invite to go to HR for 4 p.m. I'm screaming inside. No one else is around. If he's going to do something to me, now is the time. That notice is the forewarning of being fired. That's how they do it at my job. I manage to look concerned and tell him, "I'll let you know if I get one," insinuating maybe our team is being let go, not just you. He walks away, no idea where to. I sit at my desk shaking in fear. I don't know when he will return. How could HR betray me like this? They know the situation. Damn it, they should have warned me if they're about to send it. I could have fled. I could have been somewhere safe. Mike stops at my desk just to say hi and offer me some leftover catering. I can't eat right now. But in this moment, Mike has offered me so much more than just the leftovers. He has no idea of what's going on, but can see in my face that something is wrong. I ask to walk back to his office with him. Chris will never find me there. An hour or forever passes. It's got to be done by now. I know Chris will be escorted back to gather his things, and I don't want to be there for that. I sneak to Jay's office. He checks the area for me, and Chris is gone. Jay heard from HR. As per HR, I'm not allowed to speak to anyone as to why Chris was fired, which is ridiculous. Are they serious? This leaves me so vulnerable. If Chris decides to come back to work, no one would stop him. In fact, they would welcome him with open arms, and I'm left looking like the bitch that fired the nice, quiet kid. Later that week, the IT department took a few extra days to gather Chris's devices. I had time to look through them during the period. The days before our trip were one of so much discovery. Not just what I found on his computer, but what I learned from the people around me. The day after he was fired, I looked into his laptop. It had no issues of getting into his files. I was Chris's boss. I needed his work. His picture folders, a lot of personal stuff, stupid memes, vacation pictures, screenshots of the naked cam girls he chatted with, and me. Some pictures I had never seen before. Some I had. The pictures I was familiar with were from a cruise I went on months earlier with Johnny. Only, these were the ones I deleted. I had a GoPro set to take a picture every 10 minutes that hung from my wrist. While walking around, I inadvertently took close-ups of my ass in a swimsuit. Upon importing my vacation pictures, I deleted those from my computer. Were they still on my card? Then there were some pictures from my Google account. Well, it was pictures of a picture on a screen. He got into my Google account too? Why didn't I catch that one? Then the ones I'd never seen. Pictures that had been taken around the office and on work trips. Me at my desk. Me bent over, setting up gear. A close-up of a hint of cleavage shot from above. His phone was more of the same. A close-up of my arse when he sat behind me. Me struggling with an AV rack in a closet whilst in a dress. Videos from under a table during my meeting whilst I'm wearing a skirt. Zoomed in up the skirt. Pictures of dates I had written on a post-it. Pictures of my phone showing my FetLife account. The nausea sets in again. I remember all these moments in pictures he'd taken of me. Him nonchalantly on his phone, looking like he was slacking off or answering an email. Little did I know that he was filling his spank bank with images of me during work hours, and keeping a record of my days off. Creep. I got into his browser history. It was sickening. He researched how to hack someone's text messages. He stalked friends of mine on Facebook, as well as my partner. He got onto my Amazon, Gmail, Facebook, FetLife, work email, OkCupid and bank account. He read old emails of past relationships and stalked images from events I went to. There was hard evidence now. I took it to the local police near work. They couldn't handle it, so I went to the country prosecution office. Most people wouldn't think of that. It was suggested by Johnny's friends. They had a computer forensics department that could handle the case. I met an amazing detective. He took my packet of evidence and listened to the whole story. It's becoming easier to tell, especially when it focuses in on the facts. At my office, I learnt more about Chris, how he slandered me to my co-workers. I know I couldn't tell the people I worked with why Chris was fired, but for my safety, I knew I had to tell a few people, just the ones close enough to me. Once they knew the story, I heard things from them like, Chris would complain I didn't pay him enough. He lied and said he made only half of what he actually did to his co-workers. I even fought to get him above normal raises for 2 years. He lied and said I would withhold work from him, and they usually responded to him by telling him to talk to my boss or HR. Obviously he never did. You can't take lies to HR nor directors. He spread lies around the office, coercing co-workers to take his side, when I wasn't aware that there were sides to be had. From these people, I learned more about the obsession Chris had with me. He craved to have power over me. He showed them my FetLife profile. He bragged about how compatible we are on OkCupid. He even spoke about being obsessed with my partner. He told them that he tried to catfish me. I couldn't blame them though. Chris laid the groundwork and a bit of gaslight on them. To them, I was a bad person, and Chris was their friend. Chris was really good at playing the victim, and was never able to take any self-responsibility. 9 months went by. I followed up with the detective often. It took a good while to subpoena his evidence from my company, then run forensics, and in early September I got a call from the detective. They arrested Chris. They showed up early one morning at his home, where he still lived with his parents, and he admitted to everything. He took the card from the GoPro and recovered the images. He got my password once, when I was walking away from my computer, and he went through my phone when it was left at my desk. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. The shock to his family of the type of person who he actually is. Him, cowering whilst in handcuffs, face to face with what he'd done. No hiding behind a computer screen anymore. I was on vacation when that happened. I remember thinking, it's not long now till everyone at work knows. He's got a court date set. By then it's public record. I can't help if people know after that point. I didn't have to wait that long though. Later that day, co-workers started sending me a link. Hey, didn't you used to work with this guy? What a creep. The link was to a county prosecutor's PR page announcing Chris's arrest, mugshot and all. I came back to work and was able to have the truth come out. It was liberating. It took another 9 months for his final court date. I worked with prosecutors during that time to determine how I wanted to proceed. I opted for a probation period instead of going through a trial and fighting for jail time. Whilst Chris deserves the jail time, he wasn't worth my time nor effort, and a trial offered him a slim chance of getting off scot-free. Also, this way he would get some much needed counselling. 3 years, no contact with me. 3 years sexual offence counselling. 3 years of checking in with a probation officer. This way, I can at least hope he will come out understanding with what he did was unacceptable, and fingers crossed, he will never do it again to a living human being. I know there was no chance of rehab in jail. During the hearing I was nervous. I didn't want to see Chris, but I knew whatever I was feeling, he was feeling 1,000 times worse. I didn't have to go, but I knew I would regret it if I didn't. With my fiancé Johnny at my side, I watched as he got up in front of the judge after he cried in the courtroom and agreed to the terms of his sentence. His mum glared at me the whole time, as though this was all my fault. So that's where he gets it from. Number 2. This happened in early 2000, when I was around 9 or 10. A large majority of my family decided to visit one of my elderly aunts in Waco, Texas. She lived in a bad part of town, but due to how my family was, it didn't bother any of us. It was around 11 p.m, and someone was in the living room singing along to the musical on the television. We were lounging around on blanket pallets in pajamas and enjoying each other's company. When I say the living room was full, it's an understatement. We were practically on top of each other, but it didn't spoil our fun. What did spoil our fun was the front door opening slowly. Everyone immediately went silent because we were not expecting anyone, and the only person with a key to my aunt's house was her son, who was out in another state on business. What I know now as the barrel of a rifle began coming through the door with the person peering around. As soon as I saw the person's eyes, they immediately yanked the gun back and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I have the wrong house. I'm looking for a friend." He closed the door and took off. Nobody moved, blinked, or exhaled for at least a minute. At the time, I didn't know how close my family came to death. As soon as everyone came to their senses, my elderly aunt made record time locking and bolting her door, and no one slept easily that night. My aunt never moved out the house nor neighbourhood despite her son begging her, and even offering to move her in with him, saying, "I'm not letting some wannabe gangster scare me out of my house. I wish I had the balls she did. So scary gangster man, let's not meet." Number 3. This happened a few years ago, but I decided I can talk about it now. After moving out of my neighbourhood, I realised how unnerving the experience was. A few years ago, I was living in a bit of a rundown apartment complex. The town was a very safe, everyone knows everyone type of town. But if anything bad was to happen, it would always be in my neighbourhood. I also used to live alone, and for context, I am a young female. One night I was getting off at around 1 AM from my job at the animal hospital. This was a fairly normal shift for me. I'm driving my tiny compact sedan, and I pull into the cul-de-sac that leads to the entrance of my neighbourhood. I see a large white suburban SUV parked in the circle. Not unusual, as that's generally where people go if they're meeting someone and don't want to go all the way into the complex. But then it started following me. The windows were tinted, so I couldn't see inside, and there were no lights in the parking lot of the complex. I pull into a spot across the street from my building, hoping and assuming that the SUV would continue to pass. The SUV stops his car parallel to mine, blocking me in. I keep the car running with the lights off and get my phone to call 911, but there was no way to get out. I had a brick wall in front of me and cars on either side, and this guy behind me. To get to my building, or anywhere I could scream for help, I would have to pass this car. I have never been this scared before. I was a sitting duck waiting for some faceless monster to emerge from the SUV and attack me. Unfortunately, the combination of the long shift and my car charger recently breaking, my phone was dead. Then I hear my dog Tito growl from the back seat. I thank my lucky stars I brought him to work with me. He was so quiet this whole time, I almost forgot he was here. So for context, my dog is a pit bull Dalmatian Jack Russell mix. He was also feral before I got him. He's small, but has a lot of muscle and extreme territorial behaviour. Most people don't realise just how small he is until he's right next to them. And at this point, the SUV had blocked me in for about 5 minutes. He sits up, knowing something is wrong, and begins barking and snarling, and attacking the back window. He has an extremely loud and powerful bark, and no one has gotten out of the SUV yet, but Tito is chomping his gnashes, showing whoever was looking that he was ready to sink his teeth into them. At that point the SUV books it. It pulls a hard U-turn and drives past me. It then sits at the entrance, where it was facing before facing my car. I wait another 5 minutes, before the car turns around and drives out of the neighbourhood and out of sight. I sprint to my apartment with Tito in tow and lock the doors behind me. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I hated that neighborhood. I felt safe for the 2 years I lived there, but in hindsight I should have called the police. But I tried to convince myself that it may have been a misunderstanding. Thankfully, I live somewhere that's actually safe with my boyfriend and a very large male roommate. And Tito, of course. Number 4. I always seem to run into crazy people on the road. With so many drivers, I'm sure it's unavoidable. But this man took the cake. It happened a few years ago, but it stands out in my mind because of how terrifying it was. There is an intersection that was near where I worked that you could get stuck at if you stayed in the left-hand lane. The left lane would split into a third left-only lane, which would back up the left lane because the light wouldn't turn green until after the lights to go straight. I always avoided staying in the left lane so I wouldn't get stuck there. One day, whilst waiting at the lights, there was a man in the car right next to me. Our cars were perfectly side by side, with the front windows lined up. The light turned green, and my lane started to move, but due to the backed up lane turn, his stood still. I guessed he realised he wouldn't be able to go, so he started trying to merge, but he was merging right into my car. I beeped my horn at him, just a quick little beep to let him know he was going to hit me. This caused him to gesture angrily towards me. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. He proceeded to then cut off the person behind me and then follow me. We went through 2 lights with him driving right up my bumper and laying on his horn, before I got stuck at another red light. At that point, he got out of his car, ran up to my driver's side door, and started yanking on the handle, pounding on my window, and yelling at me to open the door. I am a very small woman, only 5'2", and weigh about 100 pounds. I was 22 when this happened, but I look younger than I am. Some people would say even 16. And this was a fully grown man, old enough to be my father, and didn't look to be in bad shape. This fully grown man yelling and pounding on the window of what would be to anyone appear a young girl. He was trying to open the door. I was terrified and didn't know what to do. I just stared at him in shock and started screaming, "Get away from my car, get away!" whilst quickly glancing at the light, willing it to turn green. When it finally did, I put my foot on the gas hard, pulling away as fast as I could, leaving him behind. Thankfully, there was no one in front of me to slow my escape. I looked in my rearview mirror as I drove away to see his car make a U-turn from the intersections and go back the way he came. He followed me all that way to either attack me or get me out of the car. I drove the last block to my work crying and shaking, then had to sit in the car park for a bit to get myself together before I could bring myself to unlock the doors and get out. I have no idea what the man was thinking, trying to attack a girl who looked like she could be his daughter in broad daylight, or imagine what he would have done if my doors hadn't have been locked. I hope I never have the misfortune of running into him again. Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to make my videos reasonably long for October, so I hope you're all enjoying. Please consider dropping a like and leaving a comment if you enjoyed it, as it would really help me out with that pesky algorithm. Thanks guys. If you want your story read on my channel, you can submit it as a text post or to my Reddit page, or send it to me via email. Both links you can find in the description. And if you'd like to do something truly amazing today to help support the channel, you now can, via Patreon. And you can find the link in the description. as well as the links to my social media pages. But anyway, for now guys, I'm gonna sign off. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.